I'm Kyle Malnati, your host of the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast. At Calibrate, we exist to help people create generational wealth through real estate. My personal mission is to encourage, empower, and educate you by sharing best practices from business leaders that are proven winners. Broadcasting from the Mile High City, thank you for tuning in to the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast. My name is Kyle Malnati. I'm your host. Our esteemed guest today is now a three-time expert guest on our show, Ivan Estrada from Douglas Elliman Properties. Welcome back to our show, my friend.
What's going on, Kyle? Looking good. Looking good.
I know
you look
you
super fit too. You told me I had some sun. I was like, you look like you've been getting sun, and it looks like you've been at work, living at the gym. So you look great.
GTL, baby. All right. So Ivan, for those of you who've been with us the entire time, Ivan was in episode 13, which is Life of a Celebrity Realtor, back in February of 2018, and then followed up at our mastermind, our 30 Under 30 mastermind here in Denver, episode 27, which aired July 2018. Ivan, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. We are filming this and we're going to release it the same week here, right in the heart of the COVID-19 pandemic. And if someone's listening to this a year or two from now, this may be a little bit of revisionist history for them, but I think it's really important to share that there's a lot of stuff going on in real estate right now. You shared with me as we were prepping for the show that your business production is skyrocketing. For those who haven't heard about you, haven't heard about Douglas Elliman, they've maybe been under a rock, but you're in the LA market, you're a luxury realtor. And what are the types of homes? What's the price point, deal volume, et cetera, that you typically do? And then we'll get into the rest of our interview.
Awesome. So my market is the Los Angeles basin. My office is in Beverly Hills, but I say we because I used to have a team, but it's myself, my assistant and transaction coordinator. So I serve the greater LA area. The medium price point of the homes I sell are around 4.5, 4.6. Right now, what's moving is the under $2 million price point. Like those are moving like crazy. Anything that I have listed above $3.5, $4 million, unfortunately, unless it's priced super well, it's kind of just sitting there at the moment. But those first-time home buyers, and for first-time home buyers, I mean, they're in the price points of $1 million, 1.5, $2 million, because that's what gets you a 3-bedroom, 2-bath fixer in LA at the moment, depending on the area, right? Some areas are like 900,000, but they're about an hour out. And so right now, the first-time home buyers, the millennial market, a lot of my clients, I think they had time to get pregnant. It's probably happened before quarantine though, but it seems like everyone's having babies. And so those are the phone calls I'm getting. I'm having another kid. I need a pool. I'm having another kid. I'm working out of the dining room. I can't do this anymore. Or, I have, including my sister, she just had a kid. She's living in a condo. She's like, I can't. I need space. I need a yard. It's time. And also, I think a lot of people have been sitting at home with a lot on their mind. They're thinking about, do I love this place? A lot of people are going to be working from home until the end of the year. Some of them are actually going to start working from home permanently. So, having that extra room for an office, having that extra room to get away from the madness at home. A lot of my friends are homeschooling their kids as well, and having their little sanctuary where they can relax, maybe do some exercise or work out of, is very important. So those people, which are in the I would say, the 1 to maybe some of the ones that I have an escrow 2.5, those are the move up people. Those are moving, and they're moving out of the city and more into like the valley areas where you can get more for your dollar.
You've brought up so many great points, and I don't want our audience to tune out. If you're a realtor in Cleveland, if you're a realtor in Iowa, don't freak out about the $1 to $2 million price point being a first-time home buyer. It's just the way that LA is. These are all going to be portable messages and lessons for you. And I think it's really, really fun to share that in episode 27, Ivan, you had expressed that one of your first deals was $27 million. And that was a long time ago. We're not talking about just recently. I mean, that's quite a long time ago. So the LA market is one where you can have these big deals, and it's really exciting. And I think that that's one fun point to share. The second is that I think you're so right. this has been an opportunity. This pandemic and the quarantine, people are really reevaluating things, good or bad. My wife Courtney loves this particular podcast. I wish I could say it's ours, but she has some others that she's more favorite. And one of these podcasts she was listening to was a psychologist that was saying that this time will become a relationship amplifier. Whether the relationship is good or bad, it's going to be amplified. And so what is happening right now, and you had expressed your team and how that's condensed a little bit. We've had some attrition within my own company, 5 agents leaving our company, which we have a company of 13 people in just 2-3 months. That's crazy. From February of this year until May of this year. I mean, that many people leaving all at once. And you can become disheartened. You can become real frustrated with that as a team leader and as a business owner. And I think that you can become frustrated with your living situation, and that's why you might be looking for better space or space that fits your growing family or fits your current lifestyle better than maybe what worked for you 5 years ago when you moved into that property. So I think for real estate agents, we like that movement. We like the market moving. The things that are constant and steady in real estate doesn't really create that great of a market for a realtor. For a realtor, you want to be in a situation where people are moving up, they're moving out. My friend, and you know Amanda DeVito Parle, she says that real estate's all about living, loving, and dying. You know, and that's where we help people. Is we help people on the growing up and moving out and all that type of stuff. So a few things that I picked up from you as we were just chatting beforehand, and Ivan and I have spent a ton of time together, as much time as we can in person. You are in the process of releasing a book and a series this fall. Your book is called Brand with Purpose. Your video series is Let Video Be Your Brand. Clearly, branding is something that has gotten you to the point where you've become a celebrity realtor. You're on lots of different media outlets. You also recognized by 30 Under 30, Realtor Magazine issue. How has your branding gotten you to this point? And what are some of the things that you share in both your video series as well as your book that our audience can benefit from?
Yeah, absolutely. So my coach was the one who pointed out this I guess the branding phenomena that had built my business. Because I think as an as an insider, me building out the brand, I never thought I was doing anything that was special. It was just something that was me. My branding, my videos videos was, they put me on the map. This was almost 10 years ago. No one was doing videos. I had had some experience in front of the camera, so I thought, why not use a skill that I have, that I'm comfortable with, and try to create my own YouTube channel and release the videos through my Facebook or LinkedIn. So I had seen an opportunity. I never really thought too much of it because it was super easy for me. And I thought, well, this would be a great way for me to get my face out there in front of a lot of people and do it for free, because at the time, I believe Facebook, you couldn't really pay for ads, and LinkedIn, and also the Instagram hadn't existed yet. And so I just thought, let me do something different. Let's see if this turns into anything. And I really didn't have a like a long-term plan for it. I was just going to do it every week, no matter what, if people were watching or not, because I enjoyed it, to be honest. Like, it was a way for me to be able to show how creative I was. It was an outlet for me to be creative and at the same time provide information to people. And so I've told people, day in and day out, including the agents that were on my team or other agents, is what are you passionate about other than real estate that you can combine into real estate? Because I think with real estate, it's so versatile. There's the selling aspect, there's the design aspect, the architectural aspect, the transportation aspect. I mean, real estate can flourish into so many different types of pillars. And so for me, the video aspect and the technology aspect, the design aspect of homes was always something that I was just naturally pulled to, like a magnet. And so I thought, why not capitalize on that? And without knowing, I was building a brand. To me, a brand at the time was, I wanted to have a cool logo. I wanted my cards to be cool. When I started my career at Coldwell Banker, everyone had their Coldwell Banker signs, and I refused. I had my own signs made with my logo, with my colors. I did include Coldwell Banker on there. My own cards, my own website. The manager hated me for a good 2 years. because I pushed and pushed. Nowhere in my contract did it say until later. Then they started kind of redrafting their documents because no one had done what I was doing because I was pissing everybody off, um, especially other people at Coldwell Banker because they were like, "Well, it looks like you're your own company, and this is deceiving." I said, "It's not deceiving. This is my brand." And so I think just naturally, I've always been one that I've always wanted to stand out. To me, as a kid, I wasn't as I had a sister, but growing up, I just always wanted to be different. I was never one to go with the current. I was always the one going against it, which got me in trouble a lot growing up. And now that I've had these conversations with mom and dad, where it's like, Ivan, like you always we wanted you to do this, and you wanted to do that. You want to do this, and I wanted you to do that. And so I think I built this brand. I wouldn't say by accident because everything was planned, but it evolved in a way where it kind of built itself out. And my coach was the one who pointed that out. They're like, Ivan, your videos, this, that, your marketing that you do, the way that you started marketing yourself. I remember my real estate photo was very not real estate photo. The headshot, it was completely different. There was high rises in the background with the pool, and it was very lifestyle oriented. Where other agents were asking me, what's going on here? Like this was very different. And it was nothing that I researched. It was nothing. It was just what I liked. I just followed my gut instinct. And looking in retrospect, branding was what set me apart. Branding was what put me on the map. What got me under 30 when I had submitted my application. I said, these are the videos that I've been doing to educate my clients, to educate my sphere. This is the goal. This is how I've been marketing myself differently. And so all of those things combined kind of really built the brand to where it's at now. And now that we've been in quarantine since March and things are starting to open up, I had a lot of time to think of where do I want to take it? Where do I want to take this to the next level? There's so much I know. I did hire for the first time because all of our marketing and branding has been just myself, and it's a lot of work. And so now I have hired a PR company. I have hired a digital media company. I have hired a social media company, my dog, to take my brand to the next level now that I have the leverage and the resources to be able to do that. But anybody could do that. I mean, it's super simple. You don't need the money. We have these amazing platforms of Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but there's just all these outlets where people can be creative and be different, and it's free. So there's just a lot of possibilities for people to be themselves and to have that reflect in their branding, because I think that's what's going to set you apart at the end of the day. But you first need to figure out, who am I? Like, what's my story? What's my differentiator? And how can I use that to help other people?
The end of your answer really helped encapsulate everything that I was thinking through. And you're right, brands are all about identity, and people associate, if you like Nike, if you like Chick-fil-A, if you like Walmart, whatever, if you like Louis Vuitton, if you like whatever brand it is, you associate yourself as it relates to that brand. And there are some things that embody in a company or in a person that represents a brand, the people that want to buy from and be a part of that brand. And I think one of the bigger mistakes people make, and I can tell this all the way through your answer, is that a lot of times people try to fit in and try to conform, and that's safety. I think that's human nature. That's animal nature, of course. Conformity and the herd. But really, if you're going to stand out and people are going to look at you as a leader, that's what helps people remember you. It's anything you can do to differentiate yourself, I think, is very important. And so I heard a lot through that. The next part of my question, the follow-up question, and I heard you lead into this, and I want to dive real deep into it. I know that you're very much a practicer of meditation, and meditative practice is very key to what makes you successful. And I could sense that as you were explaining how you were working through differentiating your brand and really figuring out who you are and what makes you different, I would imagine being aware of yourself. Self-awareness, my therapist says this all the time in our sessions. She'll say, self-awareness is incredibly important for success. And the most successful people are very self-aware. So what are some of the things real tactically that you do through meditation to really understand what's going on for yourself? Meditation, I think, can be confusing to a lot of people. And what do I do? How does it all work? And we've spoken about that in the two prior episodes, episode 13 and episode 27. But as you were really going on this journey of figuring out why people would want to work with you and your brand, you had to first start to say, like, what's special, what's different about me? So what are some of those things that you did to figure that out, Ivan?
Well, first and foremost, Kyle, thanks for being open about having a therapist because I think mental health, especially right now, is such an important thing. I've had a therapist for 7 years. You go to the gym to work out your body. Why not have someone to help you work on your mind and also to be an ear, when you need someone to listen because that's a big portion of I think of my success has been having someone to talk to and to be open with. And I'm glad you said that because that's huge right now. It's you don't have a therapist because something's wrong. You have a therapist to make sure something doesn't go wrong. And if something does go wrong, you can figure it out as a team. So with the meditation and figuring out who you are, I think everyone's journey is very different. My journey has been, I mean, there's been a lot of ups and downs in my life, in my personal life, which have transformed me in some amazing ways. And I think growing up, depending on where you're, I think anybody, when you're growing up, we want to fit in, we say the right things, we don't want to rock the boat. Depending on how we were raised, how our family raised us to be polite and to always say yes. And I was one of those kids who I could never say no because if I said no, I went up against the current, and that was not a good thing at my household, right? So you said yes to everything. You were a people pleaser. And, it took a lot of wanting to work on myself personally to be able to then reach like the meditation. Cause I think I didn't start meditating. It's been maybe 4 years where I've been doing it religiously. I do it every single day. It's the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, wake up pretty early. And I have my certain area and I sit there and I close my eyes. There's like Headspace, which is great, guided meditation. I've also taken courses, in-person courses whenever that's available. That's also a good opportunity to be with like-minded people and also learn how to do it and do it at home. Uh, and it really opened up my mind because I think for most of your listeners, we're all very entrepreneurial and we're always about what's next, what's next. We're trying to do so much at once. And I've realized that in order to do something right and to be able to be open to creativity and to be open to new ideas, you have to be centered and you need to make space. If there's no space in your head because it's all jumbled because you have so much going on, you can't allow that creativity to start or to begin new ideas. And I had gone to a conference, the summit here in Los Angeles, and there was Richard Branson, not Tony Robbins, Kobe Bryant, who's since passed, Jessica Alba from The Honest Company, a lot of these major entrepreneurs that it just kept coming up. I meditate. I meditate. If it wasn't for meditation, I don't know how I'd be able to handle being a mom and running a company and still filming. And I had previously had heard this from my therapist, from my business coach, from my real estate coach, from other people, but it was all those little seeds that were planted along the way. And then I was at this conference where I was like, I have to do this. Like I've tried before. I need to do this. If these are the type of people that I want to be like, I need to do what they're doing. Because obviously, if they're all saying the same thing and preaching the same song, there's a large likelihood that they're right about this. And I just started doing it from that moment. I remember the next morning I started doing it. I found a space at home, this certain space I do it at every single morning. It took months for it to catch on. It took months for me to figure out, is this even working? I don't feel different. I don't see things differently. All of a sudden it was like a light switch turned on, light switch. And I realized that when I was driving from my office to a client, and I would always drive like, I wouldn't say manic, but we want to get from point A to point B as quick as we can. We can't be late. And I was at peace for once. And I'll never forget that moment, because that moment taught me, like, not everything happens overnight. This took a good 4 months. And it just reminded me of, wow, like, it just felt like everything, all the noise stopped. And so, everyone's journey, everyone's path is going to be very different. I think being open to meditating, like I said, there's a lot of resources online on YouTube. There's tons of stuff on YouTube where it's guided meditation, or Headspace as well. But just being open to it, being open to trying it, and knowing, like everything, it's going to take time. If you want to have that great body, you need to eat right, you need to exercise, you need to sleep, you need to take the right supplements. It's a combination of things. So in order for the meditation to work, you have, most importantly, you have to be open to it. Be open to it. Find a space that you can do it at every single day. Commit yourself to doing it every single day at the exact same time, as much as you possibly can. When you're on vacation, make sure you do it on vacation. On your day off, do it on your day off. It's like everything else. If you stop doing it, it's like it stops working. It's like it's a muscle, right? So it's like you're training your muscle. And so, I think, to answer your question, I think in a very long-winded way, is, be open to it. That's what's helped me. Like, that's what has helped me improve my business, improve my health, improve my how I meditate, is just being open to trying something new, and trying it, and actually being open-minded enough to stick with it as long as you possibly can, because that's when you're going to see the results.
Beautiful answer. And I appreciate anybody that I know that benefits from meditation is that they call it a practice, meditative practice. And I think back to self discipline, and I think about martial arts. And a lot of times, people that are very into those two arenas will call it a practice because it's not perfect. And I think you would probably share that you've gotten a heck of a lot better at meditation today than you did when you first started, just like you're better at real estate brokerage today than when you first started. So I think that's the biggest thing to debunk for anybody, is that if it feels weird, if it feels like eerily quiet, that's okay, because the whole point is to really get centered, quiet your mind, realize which thoughts are meant for you and which thoughts aren't. And that process of dumping thoughts that aren't for you and receiving thoughts that are for you, I think, is really powerful. I love all of that. I think that's incredible. You mentioned, as we were prepping, and it's something I really want to dive into, that you're at Douglas Elliman, and that's a major brand. It's named for a person, but as you branch out of that and start to see all the different real estate shows with Douglas Elliman agents, there's a lot of very successful people there. And you had shared that about half of your office is doing really, really well in this coronavirus pandemic, and then the other half is not doing so well at all. What do you believe right now is separating, maybe the haves and the have-nots in the real estate business in LA, of course, but just what are some of the things that you're seeing of successful agents that maybe some of the other agents that are struggling right now are missing? And if you could take someone in their early 20s that's in your office that feels like they're just not getting the level of success that they feel like they should be, what advice would you give to that person?
Mindset. Mindset is what's separating the warriors right now from the victims. And I hate using that word victims, because I used to play that role, in my young career, playing the victim. You know, we're the safekeepers of our brains, and I, as the years have progressed, I've been very careful at what I let in, from the media that I watch, from the books that I read, from the movies that I used to love scary movies. I don't watch scary movies anymore. I don't want to have those negative thoughts, or even that type of. It was putting me in a weird feeling, because everything that you're taking in, what you read online, the news that you watch, the books that you read or don't read, it's allowing information into a processor. And, in order to maintain inner strength right now, and to be able to, yes, there's coronavirus. Yes, you know, we've had the riots, and yes, there's all these other things going on in the world. that's the world. Like, what's the world that I'm creating for myself? Because I feel like all of our worlds are very different. How you see the world is very different from how I see the world, based on how it occurs to you and based on how it occurs to me. And in March, when this all happened, I had two options. I can either play the victim role and say, well, you know, everyone's suffering. I might as well. I could take the time off. I'll catch up on some TV. Ah, next year I'll work really hard. Or you saw an opportunity to really spend some time on your business and figuring out what works and what doesn't. Spending time on your body, exercising more, meditating more, eating right, not watching TV. You know, especially the news. As much as I do try to stay informed on what's going on in world news, stock market, real estate market, there's also a lot of stuff out there that's just not healthy. And so just staying away from that and just staying clear on what's the purpose for this year? Like, what were the things that I wanted to accomplish? And what are the things that are under my control? And the things that I can control is what I can amplify. That's what I can do better. I'm going to do more of what I can. And the stuff that I can't control, sorry, it's God's job, not my job. He can take care of all of that. And I just have to have faith that he's going to take care of it because I am not God. I can't take care of those things. And so what's separating people from the office is it's that mindset. I've seen people that were not doing very well in the business and they stayed positive and they were attending the meetings. We have had daily meetings at the office and they've been very motivational, inspirational. And I've seen these people just blow up. And I've seen other people who have completely disappeared. And so for someone who's new in this moment, just know the most, I think, theory of relativity came up with, during a plague. All these amazing things have happened from catastrophes. So I want to be one of those amazing cases that I use a time that, yes, it's unfortunate. There's a lot of things going on in the world and I empathize with that, but I'm going to use this time to shine. I'm going to use this time to shine so that I can be an example for my sister, for my neighbors, for the people, the person who's my assistant, to other people in the office, because that's how we're going to create change. And staying positive, because that honestly, that is transmitted and that is very contagious. The positivity for me throughout this whole experience has been incredible. My parents, who were in their 70s, had told me a couple of weeks ago, they said, Ivan, because they've been very scared and they watch the news and they're in that world. They said the reason we could sleep at night and the reason we've been feeling better about this whole situation is listening to you every day and how positive you've become. You've become more positive during these times than ever before. And that gives us a sense of comfort and hope. You're giving us hope that everything is going to be okay. And I'm getting chills just saying that. And that makes me feel awesome. So if you're new, yes, things are bad, but there's stuff, there's books. I mean, I'm reading book after book. I've been reading 6 books a month. There's things that you can work on yourself with the stuff that you eat, exercise, and just control what you can control, and what you can't, let it, leave it to God.
Beautiful, beautiful answer. It's such an amazing switch when a child becomes an adult and you have the ability to influence your parents. As a parent myself, and then also as a son to both of my parents, that's one of those really cool things where all of a sudden you can have a conversation with your parents and inspire them, empower them, and you really see that. It's such a funny thing because you always constantly look up to your parents as a little kid and you're like, man, they've got everything figured out. They know how it goes. And then as an adult, you start to realize, wow, I don't have everything figured out. Maybe they didn't either. And your positive mental attitude, the way that you carry yourself, can really help them. And that obviously is infectious in a positive way, in a good way, a good infectious. Pardon the pun here in our pandemic. But I love that. I love that you talk about, I can influence my parents in their 70s. I can influence my coworkers. I can influence my clients. I can help them understand that I'm here to be positive. And that's just attractive. it's an attractive thing. Both of us were sharing the very beginning. It's like, hey man, you're looking good. It's been a little bit since we've seen each other in person. It's like, hey, it's good to see you. And I think that and I had a buddy joke with me today, one of my coworkers, that like handsome CEO type of thing. And it's like, well, I think that part of it too is the way you feel on the inside becomes a direct reflection of how people see you on the outside. And you have been working on that. I have too. I think it's really, I think it's pivotal for people to understand this, that when a problem occurs, it is far more important to look at what happens right after the problem than the problem itself. So many people focus in on this happened, this event occurred. And I think if you have got that victim mindset, it's thinking about the problem and how it affected you, as opposed to here's a problem. Now, what am I going to go do with it? So as I think back to February and March, I mean, the business was just cranking, going great for a lot of people across the United States. Our economy was just going wonderfully. Middle of March, at least here in Colorado, it may have been earlier in California where you are, I had a bunch of deals die. And I've talked about that. And I definitely had a self-pity party for about a week. I have since then had several agents leave my company. You know what my family has noticed? Dad's a man of action. And what has happened is I've been picking things up and making things happen. My personal production has grown a ton. Our overall company, we're retooling, we're rebuilding, but I have been getting after it and going to work. And you've shared that too, that your personal production is going up. And I don't want our audience to miss on this. Your production, the output, the things that people see, the results are a direct reflection of your input, the things that you have been doing. And so it reminds me of this incredible white paper that the Harvard Business Review did over 20 years ago called The Making of a Corporate Athlete. And it's something I've shared with a lot of people. And they share that there are 4 components of athletes that people that are in corporate America or entrepreneurs really need to focus on. And it's body, mind, spirit, and your emotions, and how you interact with all of those things. We've shared a lot about therapy. We've shared a lot about meditation. Where I'm going with this is health. And something that you had shared with me privately, we'll talk about it publicly, and both you and I are on different parts of this journey. You shared with me that not only are you very focused on working out and eating right, you've stopped drinking. And I believe that that's one of the things that has helped you get through the process, which is an arduous process of writing a book. And so if you can connect those two subjects of what taking alcohol out of your life and maybe what that was inhibiting you from doing. A lot of times people say, well, alcohol, like lowers your inhibitions, but I think it also inhibits you from being successful to a certain degree. It's controlling. And so if you can talk about your book, I can't wait to hold it in my hands, Brand with Purpose, and maybe how you were able to really work through that process of becoming an author while also operating a very successful real estate brokerage business, staying in shape and all that, and maybe what the direct reflection on removing alcohol from your life has done.
So removing alcohol from my life, that was a big, I loved my cocktail every Friday. And it wasn't one, it was like 2 or 3, I'll be honest. During the week, I was very regimented, where Sunday through Thursday, there was no alcohol. I would still attend networking events, socials, but I just never drank. And so Fridays were I think, release day. Cause as an entrepreneur, there's so much pressure at all times, and we're being pulled in so many directions, where I looked at having not 1 martini, maybe 2, maybe 3, as kind of like my outlet. As well, I worked incredibly hard. Let me just have a couple of drinks. And, for some of us who we're all or nothing, right? I think if I do something, and most listeners I think relate, we either do it or we don't. And if we're going to do it, we do it hard. And so, I would drink 2 or 3 martinis and I would have a great time. And unfortunately, the way that I process alcohol is probably not the same way that most people process alcohol, because I could have 1 glass of wine and for a day or 2, I just wasn't there mentally. It was like, it turned on my switch of insecurities, of having to doubt myself, my confidence level. And that was just one glass of wine. And I thought, I'm like, am I allergic to alcohol? Like, was that maybe why this was happening? Because I would test myself. Well, today I'm only going to have, this weekend I'm only going to have two. Okay, maybe I'm going to test three. Okay, now I'm going to do one. I was always testing. And it wasn't the amount, it was what the alcohol was actually doing to my mindset, was what it was doing to my brain. And, I told myself this year, I can't start 2020 doing the exact same things that I was doing last year. Like, what's one thing, one big thing or small thing that I can change that's going to make a huge dramatic difference in my life, not just my career, but my life. And alcohol was always number one. But, it's part of culture. You go out to drink with your buddies after work, happy hour, especially in the sales business, schmoozing your clients. It was always part of the equation. But I realized how much that was hindering me from doing amazing things, because it was robbing me of my confidence. It was robbing me of my energy. It was robbing me of my dream, to be honest. And I know my case is probably very, I would say, severe, but I think there's, and I wouldn't call it, let's say, addiction, but I would think of, as a listener, like, what's one thing that you can change now? It could be an eating habit. There's so many other different things that we do to ourselves that I think is self-consciously sabotaging our success. And so when I took that out, I mean, it was fairly easy. I just committed to myself. I told my business coach and I told my therapist, I'm going to stop drinking completely. If I see no results in 6 months, then yeah, I'll go back to my one or two cocktails every Friday, and we'll keep it at that. We'll call it a day. I tried. Within a month, I just saw huge, huge, huge dramatic difference in the way that I felt. Like, I felt like I was drinking all the time. Like, I got that sense of, like, relief, and the voices of, you're not good enough. Like, people, this isn't good enough, Ivan. Like, all the insecurities just blasted away. And it gave me a sense of fearlessness. And I feel really fearless now compared to how and it's dramatic. And to me, it was that one cocktail, right, or two or three. But to the listener, it could be something else that could push you to that next level in your career. Like I said, it comes in different forms. It's just identifying for yourself, what is it for me? Is it maybe another habit that I'm doing that's hindering me from being able to be successful, or wanting to write that book I've always done, or that course, or or branch out in my business, or get into a different type of business. I mean, it comes in different forms, but it's first identifying it and then setting systems in place, those people who will keep you accountable. Because if you don't have the accountability, only yourself, it's I don't know if it's possible, because I'm very, like you, Kyle, I'm very disciplined. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. But when it's something big, it's a big life change, you need to have, your team. You need to have a team that's going to keep you, on par with what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, I just am so appreciative of your answer, and it is something that I have gone on this big journey, and I've spoken multiple times on our podcast, and because of our timing of things, I won't go into it all, but I will share that someone that I have a personal friendship and relationship with, and was my coach for a period of time, is a New York Times best-selling author named Rory Vaden. Rory was episode 100 of our podcast, and I had the fortune of hearing Rory interviewed by Lewis Howes. And Lewis and Rory were both, they sort of meandered into this at 45 minutes into this interview, and you can go find it on Apple Podcasts. Just look up for the School of Greatness, which is Lewis's podcast, and find Rory, and you can find this. They both share, I think somewhat inadvertently, because I don't think they were really going there, that neither of them drink anymore. And Rory had in the past, and because his wife was pregnant and she wasn't drinking, he's like, I'll give this a whirl. I want to support her. And what he shared, and I very much felt this, and I want to share it with our audience, Rory shared that drinking wasn't serving anybody. It was really serving himself, and a way of numbing or whatever, a bunch of different reasons why people do it, but it wasn't serving humanity in any way. And that was, as he was expressing it, Lewis realized that, and they both just said, to be a positive impact on the world, they both realized that that was something that was it was not helping, it was not serving, and that was a issue for them. Like you said, it could be anything. It could be something else that you feel like is weighing you down or blurring your vision, quite literally or figuratively. I think that's really important. All right, as we close out, brand with purpose, and then also your video series, let video be your brand, that training. If someone were to buy your book, if someone were to sign up for your training, what would you hope the audience would gain from that information? Why would someone come and check out Ivan Estrada and buy the book with purpose?
I think it's never been more important to really work on your personal brand. When you think of like a star athlete, right? That star athlete, wherever they're at, they're building a brand, and they're building a brand by, like for example, for ourselves, with our sales track record or our reputation, or what you say and what you don't say. Like wherever you go in any company that you end up with, because there's always, we like to move all over the place. I mean, we want to continue to grow. That brand is what's going to follow you no matter where you go, right? Like an athlete, no matter where they're traded off to, there's that brand is what precedes them. That's what's going to get them, that will follow you forever. And so right now, working on your personal brand more than ever has never been more important. That's what's going to set you apart from your competition. But in order to do that, you need to figure out, what is your brand? Who are you? And so for me, this book, I mean, from the chapter of authenticity to the chapter of, differentiator, from what's your story, all these it's a journey book, pretty much. Like it's a book where you can go, if you're interested in just authenticity or networking your brand or expanding your brand, you can go to that section. The cover is a Swiss Army knife, and it's split open into the chapters. Or you can read the whole book, and it's a journey. And so I hope that people can read this book and figure out a little bit more about themselves. Like this is going to be a mirror that I hope they're looking through, and they'll be able to see, like, be able to rekindle certain things that they're like, wow, I totally forgot about that. And that could be of value to someone in my life or in my business that could differentiate myself. And so that's the whole point of the book. That's the whole point of the course. And I think more than ever, that's incredibly important. So important.
I have to make this point because I heard it in everything that you made in your answer. You're in LA, you're right near Hollywood, you've had show business experiences. I know that you've got a singing career and done some acting, and obviously, video was one of the ways that you became on people's level of awareness as a realtor. Your brand is what gets you hired for your next gig. Whether you've been experienced or not, your brand is what gets you hired for the next gig. And it's what gets you your next date. If you're looking for a romantic relationship, it's what makes you your next friend. It certainly gets you your next clients. Your brand is how you are hired and why people choose to interact and work with you. And I think it's that important. And I think people lose that. They forget that branding is what companies do or whatever, but it is what gets you your next customer. It's also what retains your existing customers. And you've got to constantly be focusing on it. So I love this discussion about branding. Ivan Estrada, buddy, thank you so much for sharing your valuable time. I've been very appreciative of the time we've spent today. If you haven't checked out those other episodes, episode 27, episode 13, both back in 2018, Ivan Estrada with Douglas Elliman. I am so excited to see this book come out and hear about your training program this fall. Kudos to you, my friend, and thank you so much for your time today. If people want to connect with you on social media, if they want to get the book, where do they find you?
So the book will be out on ivanestrada.com. That'll be up and running by September. But social media, Instagram. I love Instagram, so people can follow me on Instagram, Ivan Estrada Properties. I respond to everybody. So just send me a message and I will respond and we can connect.
Ivan, it's awesome. For our podcast producer, Kayla Davis, I'm your host, Kyle Malnati. And for Ivan Estrada, like I love to say, we will see you around the neighborhood. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.